Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Table Talk. We don't do politics on this show. I sometimes sort of wish we did, or even that I had a separate politics channel. But then given the trolling that I get sometimes on here, imagine what it'd be like if you had a political channel. There's a lot going on in the world and a lot has changed since we last talked last week. So even though we don't talk about politics, we can't ignore geopolitics and how it's affecting our hobby. We're going to be talking about that and lots of other stuff. But before we do that, we need to run titles. See you on the other side. Yes, hello everyone, and a big warm welcome to you all, especially if you're new or fairly new to the channel. It's great to see you, and a big warm welcome to all the members and subscribers. You know, you guys, you make this so much fun for me. Right then, we have a lot of ground to cover this week, and I was just making a cup of tea ready to go so I can keep my throat lubricated for the next hour or so. And I was thinking about how am I going to open this, because I need to talk about what's happening or what the impact is on Iran. And I, you know, I run it through my head, and there's all sorts of ways I could open it, and then I go, no, that's too political. No, that's too political. It's very difficult for me as a student of contemporary politics. I went to university and studied contemporary politics. You know, I studied with people who are now in politics in this country, in the you know, working in the United Nations. There are people that I know that I went to university with who are now, you know, working away within politics and geopolitics. So it's very difficult for me not to comment, but I'm gonna do my best. What I am gonna say is, with the new war in Iran, there is an impact on us as modelers, as hobbyists. And how long that impact and how big that impact is going to be is yet unknown. And it's unknown because it appears that the Americans don't really have, or at least not sharing, a game plan. So whilst there is a desired outcome that you know, that how this war should look when it completes, we don't have a timeline for that, and we appear to have a commitment, although not from the president directly, that troops, you know, won't be putting feet on the ground. So that means that this is protracted. So, I mean, obviously, I've got no way of knowing how this will play out. I can only look back at history and say, well, what's worked well and what's not worked well. What I suspect is that this is going to take at least a few weeks to play out one way or another, and that ultimately we're going to have an unsettled region for a long time to come. And that has an impact on our hobby. Don't underestimate it. The price of wholesale gas in the UK doubled in 2 hours after that war started. So yes, it has an impact. It's having an impact on the model manufacturers in multiple ways, and I thought it was worth just talking about those. Now, this isn't a conversation to say in any way that this war shouldn't be happening. What I'm saying is that when things change in the globe, whether it be a pandemic, be a war, a poor harvest, whatever it is, you know, these things affect us all. And what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on the potential effect for modelers, because that might help you with some choices that you might want to make in the near future. And it is by no means a way of saying that, you know, this war shouldn't be happening because it's affecting me and my hobby. It's not that at all. It's just making you aware of what I suspect will be the knock-on effects for us as modelers, something for you to look out for and consider. So, yeah, firstly, and what is likely to be the most noticeable and quickest impact is you might see some delays in upcoming kit releases, and that they get pushed back a little bit. There's two reasons for that. I might actually be able to argue that there'll be three reasons. The first and the most obvious one is ocean freight. With the war going on, it is going to be very, very difficult for people to navigate the Straits of Hormuz, which means that shipping lines are going to use for safety the Cape of Good Hope. Why would they do that? Well, firstly, it will be a lot more expensive to insure a ship if it doesn't go via the Cape of Good Hope, and so to avoid that cost, they will take the shipping route that's longer, and it's going to add typically 10, 12, 18 days onto your shipping time. So that's going to cause some delays. But also, because there's attacks on various oil depots and seaports, you're going to have disrupted shipping and shipping lanes anyway. Secondly, containers that this stuff is all, that our model kits is being shipped in, they all get stockpiled at ports, and there's a possibility that disruption at the ports mean that those containers are either getting damaged, or the chaos is stopping unloading and movement of them, so that could cause other delays. Also, those containers get insured as well, not just the ships. The content gets insured, and so does the containers, and insurance companies will be looking for more to insure that, and companies will be looking around to see where they can get the cheapest insurance and keep the cost down as much as possible. That also takes time, so you'll have that going on as well. And then when they've finally got that and they've got it in the container and they're shipping it, you've got all these additional costs. You've got the ship insurance, the container insurance, you've got the delays, you've got the people wanting a higher price for their containers, charging a premium because container volumes might go down. We all remember what happened in the pandemic, and whilst I'm not suggesting this is going to be anything like as bad as that, there is that possibility that container shortages and container disruption will put the cost off. That means you've got lots of additional costs on top of the usual costs for your model kits. So we'll come to cost in a minute. But what I've just been describing to you is all about delays. So imminent kits that have already been manufactured, and that, you know, all those elements, the box, the instructions, the packing is all coming together. There could be delays if they are coming from a manufacturer in, say, India, like Airfix use, or, you know, even China. There could be disruption as well, although I have some Chinese colleagues and I was talking to them, and they're actually coming to the UK next week, and looks like disruption is minimal at this stage. So yeah, these are all potentials. I'm not saying that these are definitely happening, but they are all potentials. As soon as you've got a conflict, you have a war risk surcharge on things like containers, which is, you know, it might be $3,500 per container, and you spread that over 2,000, 3,000 kits in there, and it, you know, it adds up to pence, but it's pence that has to be passed on, and then you add all those other elements and additional costs on, and that all adds up as well. Plus you've got a longer time between you know, receiving your goods and having paid for your goods. So there's all of those. I mean, that will have an effect on businesses. It has an effect on cash flow, has an you know, effect on EBITDA and all that sort of stuff. So there's lots of things going on in the background. Initially, what you will see is that there might be some delays. But in the longer term, what you're possibly going to see is cost increases on model kits, because you not only got those additional charges that we've just talked about, which are adding a couple of pence here and a couple of pence there, but you've got oil and the cost of oil. So actually, this war is going to help Russia out, unfortunately, for probably a short period of time, because there's the possibility of disruption to oil supply, and that's going to drive cost up because demand will be greater than supply, and so everyone will be paying more for that oil. And as we're plastic modelers in the main, that means that our products, the things we build, are going to go up in the main. Now, we all know that plastic, in terms of the sprue, isn't the most expensive element of the kit that you're buying, but there is plastics in your decals, there is plastics in your packaging, there is even plastics these days in printing and that sort of stuff. There's all sorts of plastics involved, and they're all derivatives of oil, and the price for all of those will be going up. The plastic bag that your sprue's in, everything, that's still a few more pence. So overall, that is likely to put some percent on your model kit. So we are going to feel the impact of this. And to summarise, this is what I think we might see with our model kits. In the immediate next few weeks, we're going to expect to see, firstly, a jump in pre-order costs. So pre-order prices may well go up to protect businesses from the risk of price increases that we've just talked about. You know, there'll be fuel surcharges, because when that oil goes up, it's not just the plastic, it's the cost of the fuel for the ship, it's the cost of the heating for the factory, cost of the electricity for the factory, depending on how that electricity is generated, and all of that sort of stuff, the transport, the HGVs taking it from the factory to the ship. You've got loads and loads of price impacts that are already happening. You might find that we also start seeing in the short term, not just that the transit times increase. If manufacturers are going to look around and try and assess what's the securest route for plastic, what's the cheapest route for the plastic beads and things like that, that's going to take a little bit of time. They may have to find a new supplier, even if it's temporary. They may be put on force majeure contractually, or on disaster recovery plans for businesses. You know, all of this is going to be going on, and all of it takes time. So we may see that some of the releases that we thought were imminent in the spring may get pushed back to summer or late summer. All of this could happen in the short term. So it's likely to increase by maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Don't be surprised if things get pushed out by at least a month in the short term. In the longer term, the conflict in the whole is likely to drive a permanent increase on kit costs of maybe 10%, maybe less, but maybe more, maybe up to 15%. It's difficult to judge. It depends on how long the disruption goes on for, how long the fighting continues, and whether other countries get drawn into that conflict one way or another. You've got to remember that this is the least stable region in the world, and also the region in the world that the world is relying on for oil. So putting a non-selfish face on it and looking at it globally, you know, this is going to have a huge impact on us, not just for our modelling, but on everything else. You know, the cost of food is going to go up, the cost of energy is going to go up, the cost of driving your car is going to go up. All those costs are going to go up again, which means that the amount of money that we have as disposable income to buy our models is going to decrease in the longer term. So I'm mentioning all of this. I know that's quite gloomy, but I'm mentioning all of this because if you've got money now that you're saving and you're thinking, well, I particularly want to buy this kit and it's already out and it's already available, now might be the time to think about purchasing it, even if it's like you're intending to get it for your birthday or for Christmas or something like that, and you think you can wait some months. Do not think for a minute that costs won't start creeping up on existing stock, because that will be part of risk mitigation. If we put the price up a little bit now on our existing stock, then we don't have to put our price up quite so much on the new stock and, you know, amortize it. All of these things could happen. This is speculation. All of this is speculation, but it's educated speculation from what we've seen happen before with other things such as the pandemic and, you know, other disruptions that we've had in the past. So, you know, do not think for a minute that a war in a Gulf state doesn't affect you. It absolutely does. It affects everyone. And it will affect us in lots of ways. And it absolutely, sure as hell, is going to affect your hobby. So be mindful of it. Think, plan, make decisions. Be thankful that you've got a stash, because that will protect you for a little while. Maybe you need to work through the stash rather than buy more kits for a little while. You know, all of those things as modelers need to be active in our heads. And, you know, 10% on a 20 quid model isn't much. 20%, you know, 10% on a £100 model, it's a little bit more noticeable. You will start noticing the difference, I am sure. Anyway, there we go. So, you know, having said all of that, the most important thing for me is that I hope that, you know, casualties are as minimal as possible, and that this is done with as quickly as possible. War is not nice. And unfortunately, it appears to be part of the human condition, not the best part. Anyway, there we are. I think it's time to change it up to a more positive note, and to do that, we're going to talk about this T-shirt. Intrigued? So those of you that have got Facebook will know that every now and then it posts. Facebook sort of give you a reminder of something that happened on this day, or so it does all sorts of strange stuff that you're not really interested in. And a picture popped up of me in this T-shirt. I think I was in Verona with Paula. So the interesting thing is that photograph would have been taken not a year ago. It would have been taken, I'm gonna say May last year. Yeah, I think it would have been back end of May last year in the school holidays, so Whit Week, when we were in Verona. And the T-shirt I was wearing was this one, and it was pretty tight, I gotta tell you. I look at that photograph and I cringe a little bit. And it's a lot looser now than it was a bit less than a year ago. So that's good news. That means that my new regime and sticking more closely to my eating habits. I'd got a bit loose with them towards the Christmas period. Is definitely paying off. I'm definitely starting to lose weight. I've had a few health challenges since Christmas. I've been fighting a potential frozen shoulder and now understand what it is when it's coming on, and that's taken me a while to fight it off. And I've been having some pretty hefty migraines as well, which aren't pleasant, and I take permanent medication for migraines now. And so usually when I get a migraine, it's not so bad, but these ones have been challenging me, and I've had to take additional painkillers on top of what I have to take. So apparently 1 in 3 men over 50 get migraines, and who knew? I've never heard anyone complain about migraines because they've got older, but that's supposedly the statistic. But yeah, certainly the last 4 years I've had migraines regularly, and I'd never had one before then. Never, ever, ever. So, these people that say the men don't go through the menopause, they do in 2 ways. Firstly, they go through a lot of body changes at 50. It either aches or it grows hair. It's a challenge. It really is. And you have to sit with your partner's menopause as well. So if you've got a female partner, don't think for a minute you're not experiencing their menopause as well. So good news for me that things are going in the right direction health-wise. Right, now we've said all of these things, I think it's time we get on with the show proper and start talking about what we got up to last week. Well, my post-50 status played a part in this week's happenings, or not happenings, or alternative happenings, depending on how you want to cut it. I'll explain all. We started the week with the group build update on the Sunday, because that was the kickoff of our TV and film 6-month-long group build. We talked about it on the Saturday, we launched it formally on the Sunday, and we also said please send in the wheelie things photographs. Now I've had some in. I initially said, can you send them to me all this week? Most people, well, I've got a good number, but I haven't had a chance to do anything with it. So you've got another few days. I'm going to say by end of Wednesday this week. If you haven't sent it to me by Wednesday, it probably won't be included. I'm going to try and do the initial editing this weekend, and then we can add in any later ones after that. Right, so that's where we are with the group builds. I think you know where we're up to. If you missed it and you are involved in the group builds or want to get involved in the group builds, then go and see it. It's in the group builds playlist, so it's easy to find. It'll be the most recent one. So that was Sunday. Then Monday we had the stands again. We talked about them a bit on the Saturday. I've got to say that Guy at Super Stands was very happy with the video. So I was really pleased. It's had a really great response, that product. And I wish Guy every success with his business venture on that. I have talked to him about something a little bit different than an aircraft stand, and he's very interested in that. And Guy, if you're listening, I'm sorry, I've just been so busy this week with actual work and not this fun stuff that I do, that I haven't had a chance to reply, but I will get back to you, I promise. So yeah, a great little product. I mean, I've got my my Hurricane, which is wheels down, no pilot, and the wing panels open and glued onto the top of the wing in the stand, just because it looks pretty cool in the stand. And I've swapped my Airfix supplied stand with the 172 World War II prop stand, and it looks great. So yeah, a great little product, and it'd be interesting to see how that expands. So yeah, there you go. We did super stands on Monday, and that was well received. Then we almost didn't do generally on Tuesday. I should have put that out at 8 o'clock. One of the nuances of videos that are for members only is that if you put them on a schedule and say they are for members only, you can select that, and then you can select which types of members you want to see. And then when it goes live, YouTube ignores all those settings that you put in place and releases it to everyone. It's done it more than once to me. So now I'm in the practice of keeping it private and then manually switching the video over to live and selecting the members and what have you, and switching it on. And that's worked really well until Tuesday, when I completely forgot to do it. I started work early, got stuck into it. I'm very, very busy at the moment. I didn't lift my head up at all. I had my lunch pre-made, so I didn't even stop for lunch. I just grabbed it out of the fridge. And that was partly because my daughter had woken me up at 4 in the morning with diarrhea and vomiting. So, 4 in the morning, I'm cleaning that up. My poor old daughter then can't go to school for 2 days. So, yeah. I had a busy day and I just didn't think about it. And I got to the evening, and I think it was about 9:15 at night, and I went, I've not released that video. And then I thought, shall I leave it till Thursday? And then I thought, no, just put it out, because I'll only forget again, because I wouldn't be even thinking about it on Thursday. So that did go out on Tuesday, but late on Tuesday. So if you missed it, General Lee Part 6 went out Tuesday, 10 p.m-ish, 9:45, something like that. Go back and see it. I'm not quite sure what we were working on. I think it was bodywork, if memory suits. It's really interesting when you've got build diaries going out like the General Lee and the Lady Eleanor, and you finish the model, because mentally I've forgotten about them. I've moved on from them. I'm on something else. And then these are coming up, and I can't remember where I'm up to, because some of that is months ago. So yeah, so that was that. Then on Wednesday we had the first impressions of Stranger Things. So it's about 4:15 in the afternoon here. I finish work at 4. I'm starting to record my video and so on and so forth. And I'm not really sure until later this evening how popular that video's been. Quite often you see it says, oh, it's not doing as well as normal, and then it'll go to, yeah, that's normal, and then if you're really lucky, it might go over normal. We will see. But yeah, it's a relatively new tool, 2025, so I think it might be a slow burn, in that people will buy the kit and then look to see if anyone's built it. And then they might find the first impressions that way. These things build up over time. Whereas the stands, because it was a new product and we thumbnailed it in that way, that did better than normal viewing figures right from the off. So and we'll continue to build. So cool. So that gets us to where I am now as I'm recording this. I want to just go back to Friday night though, because in last week's table talk I said you should have just seen Wessex Part 2, but you hadn't. You'd seen Lady Eleanor Part 9, I think it was. I released the wrong video, so this is my cognitive decline post 50. And the problem is, I've been hand to mouth for a while, as you know. We've talked about it on the channel that I'm sort of editing videos just in time. And now I'm 3 weeks ahead. I actually had 4 Friday videos edited and reserved ready to go, and I just flicked the wrong one on. And it's exactly the same process as I just described for members video. When you're doing a premiere, you can't set it up too early because it sort of gets lost. Most people don't put the notification on, so they see it and they forget about it. So I tend to do it on the day, and you have to go in and turn it into a premiere and set a time and schedule it. And if I do that in the morning, it sits there all day. You've got a good chance people are going to see it. Although the guidance is 4 hours before, I don't think that's enough. And I just put the wrong one on. I put the Lady Ellen on, and I was trying to do wood, plastic, and we did back-to-back wood. Do you know how many people mentioned it? Not one. So, oh, good. So, yeah. So that is what sort of we got up to last week. Last night, you definitely saw Wessex Part 2. As you watch this, you definitely saw Wessex Part 2. I've got Wessex Part 3 already recorded, already loaded up, ready to go. But because I've done that out of order, I haven't actually got Lady Eleanor Part 10, which you're going to see this Friday coming, actually edited yet. Although I know I've got the material because the build's over. So that's where we were last week, and that gets me to what was happening on the bench. So we've tackled 3 kits on the bench. Let's start with Grecian. Going okay. I wouldn't say it was going great. I have a small concern. Partly, I've now managed to break 2 of these little arches off. I now have this laminated. We've got 2 layers on this side, although I'm still on only the inner layer on this one. They're quite fragile, so the instructions are very right to say let's build some strength into that. It's a lot stronger just having that other one on. I'm a little bit concerned that the bow isn't coming together as quite it should, but I'll worry about it when we're doing the planking and putting the outer plates on for the keel and stuff, and just see how they are. One of them is a 1/4 millimetre longer than the other, and one side isn't quite making contact with that, which doesn't feel right to me. But my priority was lining these up. Now I might be missing something. I might not have looked ahead in the instructions enough, and it'll come together. But yeah, what I've done, there's a method shown in the instructions, and then there's a method talked about in the instructions for getting a curve on here. I've done both methods to show you, and then made my recommendation of which I think is the best. But yeah, that's almost ready for first planking. Well, I mean, it is on the outside, but we've got to put the deck in. Which ordinarily you wouldn't do, but they want to build up the strength of these arches by 3-plying them, and so that's why they're doing that now. Probably will give us some additional masking challenges later on. I am toying with whether I paint the inside first before I install it. I think that might be my way to go. All of this wood is going to get painted. There's very little wood seen on this model. So what I'm actually thinking is we might paint in the gun port openings now, and then paint the inner bulkhead pieces, then install them, and then touch up if we need to. Still toying with it. That might not be what we end up doing, but we are making some progress on the Grecian. It's very much a pick it up when I get a moment build at the moment, but that's going to change as we start getting into our stride as soon as we finish the Wessex. So in a couple of weeks that'll probably change, but I'm just picking it up when I can for now. We've got plenty of Lady Eleanor videos, so I'm not under pressure, and I'm already creating video material for this, so I'm still feeling like I'm ahead. I don't want to lose that, however. So that was one thing we continued on with. The next thing we continued on with was the Wessex, so let's show you where we are with that. There you go, she is camouflaged. So my next step is the black underneath. We'll try and do that probably tomorrow night. Start tackling that, and then we've got to start doing the red. So we put the grey down as the base coat, and then the green was airbrushed on freehand, not masked or anything like that. You know, we didn't use blue tack sausages or any of that sort of stuff. We just went and did it freehand. It is enamels. You can see some witness of the spraying. That should go once we start clear coating it. So yeah, really happy with how that's coming out so far, but I've got plenty of opportunity to make a mess of it. But yeah, Wessex has come along nicely, and it was mainly getting paint down on it this week gone. We also made a start on Jim Hopper's car, and there it is. So the build starts with the engine, and I had one of those heart-sinking moments when you think, oh, this is a new tool, it should go together well. And then the first two bits I got to were these two engine halves, and the fit was dreadful. So they had these long pins, and they were just holding it apart, so I had to remove the pins, which then allowed it to come together. And then you couldn't really clamp it because of the shape, so I had to glue it and hold it, and we sort of forced it together. And I was thinking, oh, I don't want another car build that's going to be challenging. I need to speed through this. I've just got 6 months. Pleased to say all the other parts have gone together like a dream. So it was just a mess with my head moment from Revell. Thanks. But yeah, everything else has gone together really well. So we're actually at the point where we're ready to start painting all the engine components so that can come together. So that's pretty cool. And it's quite a detailed kit. There's lots of decals on there, so there's decals for like the oil filter and stuff. So you know, they've done a really nice job of it. And in the first impressions that we did on Wednesday, I note things like there's no tread on the spare wheel. What am I going to do about that? And I didn't notice, but there is a decal. So you put a decal on, and it's been very cleverly printed in black and a sort of shiny grey for the tread. So at a distance, it actually does look a bit like a tyre. It's quite clever. So yeah, I am looking forward to getting stuck into that. I've gone through and selected my paints from my stock. So I'm not using Revell paints because I generally don't have Revell paints. I've got a small number of their enamels, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's where we got to with the 3 builds. So it's all been happening. Not much happening in the way of stash ads, although I am very excited about this. Very, very, very excited about the contents of this bag. So I ordered this on Amazon a month, 6 weeks ago. They finally turned up, so they must have come from China. There is a lot of Chinese writing on the barcode label. So what I've ordered is 100 of these. So why is that exciting? I mean, all the thread I've got for my wooden models, all my rigging thread, is already on spools. So why do I need these? Well, I need these when I'm making my own ropes. So one of the things that I want to start playing with is making my own ropes. And as I start getting ropes that I'm happy that they would be usable, I'm going to put them on these. We're going to tag them up and say what diameter they are, what type they are, what hand they are, and slowly start building up my own stock of ropes that I can use when I'm rigging, so that I'm not making ropes whilst I'm also whilst I'm at the point of need. So we don't wait till, right, okay, we've got to put the forestay on, so I've got to make a rope for that. done that, brilliant, that's on, that looks great. Now I've got to make the backstay. I need to make a rope for that. What I want to try and do is make the ropes and have a sort of a stock of standard ropes, if you like. And that's why I got 100 of these, because we can put those ropes on there. So that's why I'm excited, because this means I can get playing with that tool that we did a review of last year, the little rope walk, and start having a little play, and that will end up being a members only how-to video and that sort of stuff once I'm clear that I know how to as well. So it's all stuff for the future, stuff you might not see for a few months yet, but it's exciting to me because, you know, we're moving on with what we're planning to do this year. So that gets me to the next thing. We also moved on because we did a load of videoing and did some standard videos. So I put on my model kit stuff shirt, and we started pulling some videos together. So what I'm trying to do is just have a more professional video, and there's a couple of things that I'm doing, and you're gonna see, you will have seen that for the first time last night in the Wessex. So if you watch the Wessex build, you'll have seen my first attempt at just raising the video. Now, when I intend to do this with the Grecian, this video format with the Grecian, because it lends itself really, really well to the absolute beginners things. So we've talked about the Grecian being a principal build. So we can use that as the basis for these little overlays that come onto the video and give you a little bit of detail. So in the Wessex build, you'll have seen me highlight a couple of products, I think it was. Certainly one of them was the masking fluid, and it tells you what the masking fluid is in detail. It comes up in text on a little banner. It stays there for a few moments. You can pause the video and write it down. But it's one of those things that I get asked a lot in comments. What's this you use? What's that tool you're using? So I'm going to highlight these little things as I go, and I think that will just add the next level onto my video. So we've sorted the titles out, we've sorted the logo out. I've been doing some videoing, so we'll have some more professional looking sort of elements that get used regularly, like, you know, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe. Have you hit the like, by the way? Do so, please. And then, you know, things like when I'm doing a tool or product review, the little disclaimer, that sort of stuff. We've filmed all of those. I've also filmed the new Welcome to Model Kit Stuff video, and I've also filmed the Welcome to Membership video, which made Paula chuckle because she came home early and was working from home, and I'd finished work. So she was working till 5:30. I'd finished work at 4, and I was filming this in here. So she sat in the living room on the other side of the wall there, and I was doing retake after retake after retake, and she was laughing her head off because I was starting the video and going, "Oh, welcome to Model Kit, blah 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 blah." Oh no, that doesn't work, and stop, and then start again. So I've got a fair bit of editing to do to get that into a video. I might even have to record it again. Sometimes your head's just not in it and you can't get it right, and there's a danger that when I edit it I go, you know what, that's not good enough, so we'll do it again. So there's no time pressure for me to make this change, but you know, we've talked at length about this coming. So I've been doing some videoing. I'm trying to just represent the channel a little bit more professionally. So these little overlays, pale blue overlays, you will see these become a more common feature of my videos. It does increase the editing time, but as we talked about last year, whilst I try and keep to a framework of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, you know, I'm not precious about it. So if the first impressions goes out Thursday because I didn't get it edited in time, it's not a biggie. So yeah, I'm not going to worry too much. I just want to get the video right, because last year I was making silly little slip-ups because I was under pressure. So being 3 weeks ahead really helps. I mean, if I start closing that gap, then I might just go, right, you know what, I'm putting minimal videos out. I'm just doing Fridays so I can get ahead. You know, I have no problem doing that. I would rather you got quality content, because I feel like last year I compromised myself a little bit, which is also why I said in last week's table talk that I might not put something in all the group builds, because I put myself under build pressure and Scharnhorst was the victim. And it's still a bit of a victim now because we're not starting it until the Blazer's done. So yeah, I just want to try and keep to commitments, but present the channel in a more professional way. And I think more professional product will mean that we will get more subscribers and more members, and ultimately the more people I talk to, the more people I'm helping, is how I see it. So there's always people who don't know things, who are new to the hobby, are returning to the hobby, or people that, you know, make models but don't know anybody else that make models and need to join some form of community or would like to. So people finding the channel, then they can reach all of that stuff. So yeah, there we go. Right, so I think that is everything that gets us up to what's coming up next week. Right then, let's see. What's coming up next week? Monday, we've possibly got a tool review, possibly got a product review. I just need to film the closing piece of a product review, and then it will be out. I then have another product review coming out middle of March, around the release date of the product. So yeah, so that's coming up as well. So I've just got to film a back end final conclusions. So if I can get that done in time, that will be out on Monday. If not, there's a tool review already loaded up, ready to go. Wednesday, we have the first impressions of the Artemis that you saw last week. The space launch system, the Airfix kit. I think Revell have a kit of it as well. Be interesting to compare the two. They have, as far as I can see, the only really noticeable difference is a slightly different design of base. I mean, if ideally they're making kits that are accurate, they should look identical, should they not? Although I noticed some decals were in different places. Interesting. Then on Friday coming up, you will definitely have Lady Eleanor Part 10, if I get it edited, which of course I will. So yeah, that is what's coming up in the week ahead. I'm not planning any extras. I'm waiting till the middle of the month when I've got a bit more free time to do some more modelling health for members, and maybe start thinking about building a list of how-tos that we can film and share for members ready for membership launch. So we can start putting out some of that content. So yeah, lots going on as always. And you know, when I'm not filming videos for you guys, for my channel, all modelling stuff, or I'm actually doing modelling and enjoying building stuff, then generally I'm thinking about modelling. There's not a lot else that goes on in my life other than things that my kids create, like, oh, I can't go to school today because I've been chucking up all night. You know, the life happens stuff. And spending time with my partner, which I never seem to get enough of. And that's not down to me being here a lot. You know, there's lots of people, her daughter and her mum, that want her time and are ringing up and stuff. So, you know, she has a busy life too. So it's great when we manage to get some time away like this middle of the month. We're going away for a long weekend. Really looking forward to that. Completely different change. There's no washing up to do. There's no sweeping the floor to do. There's no laundry to do. It's just me and her and whatever we want to do. The biggest pressure is going to be finding somewhere for breakfast, because we decided not to have the hotel breakfast because it was a cooked breakfast, and I don't want to have a cooked breakfast. So we're gonna have to go out and see what the town has to offer. Could be interesting. And so I'm often thinking about future videos, future projects. You know, if I'm looking on the internet and I'm looking at kits, I'm thinking about, you know, if I buy that, I could do this with it, I could do that. I mean, I'm always thinking about, is it something I'm interested in? Can I do it in context? Or sometimes I'm looking at something like, you know, I've not built one of those for ages, you know, that sort of thing. I was trolling a website looking for what was new, and there were some figures for a Schwimmwagen. You know, I've not built a Schwimmwagen since the 80s. I'd love to build another one of those. I built the Tamiya one in 135, tiny little thing, loads and loads of fun. You know, there just isn't enough time to do it all, really. And this week I'd also been thinking about the Artemis, because we talked about doing that as an absolute beginner's build. I think probably the most challenging thing on there is going to be the decals. There's lots of them, and a couple of them in quite challenging places with a lot of folds, and that probably takes it slightly above beginner's level, but we will deal with it, and deal with some of the mistakes that people make, so that beginners avoid them right from the off, and not learn by mistakes but learn by advice, if that makes sense. So I've been thinking a lot about the Lady Artemis, the Artemis, and particularly about the painting, and you know, it's hand painting, and you know, I was thinking, well, the Humbrol paints supplied, you can thin those with water, so nice and easy for a beginner. But if you thin true acrylic paints with water, which is doable, I do it with ICM paints sometimes, what happens is you don't break the surface tension. Whereas if you use a thinner, you generally you do break that surface tension, so they go down. So I'm thinking a lot about, you know, that. Do I advise at the start of the video that you really need to buy some thinner for your paint and a cutting mat? And I don't really want to do that. I want to keep it as simple as possible. If you think about the Sherborne, we did it from the box, but at the start of the video we also said you're going to need some of these simple tools. So I've got some of these tools, so I think we might have to go, in addition, it would be handy to get some thinner, it would be handy to get one of these adhesives, and you probably want to get this sanding stick and so on and so forth, and some masking tape. So and probably some decal fix. So I've been thinking about that, and I kept coming back to great big rocket, got to hand paint it in the orange, and I think they give you 5 pots of paint. Is that enough if you're hand painting? Because you're going to have to build that up in layers, lots and lots of thin layers to bulk out the colour and get it even. And actually what you do when you build it as per the instructions doesn't look like even the box art, where you've got all these yellow stripes and things that you'd possibly do with mixing colours that you're provided with. Or with buying an additional colour, and then you need masking tape. So it just gets a bit complex, and I was thinking about that. But it led me down the path, and we have talked about this before, but I was just thinking, how many people actually still brush paint, prefer to brush paint? Because it was interesting, one of the entrants into the wheelie thing sent me some pictures at the same time, and he clearly brush painted those models, and I was thinking, how many people actually do, you know, start modelling, start brush painting, and then move on to airbrush, and how many stay brush painting? I mean, I quite often say, you'll have heard me say it in videos, I enjoy brush painting, it's therapeutic. You know, I often brush paint wooden models because it's so therapeutic. You've got acres and acres of surface area that you're just leisurely painting in, and you put that little detail in, and you feel a bit more like a craftsman somehow than when you've got your airbrush. You feel a bit more like an engineer with an airbrush. Does that make sense? But yeah, you feel closer to it, brush painting, I think. So I was interested, how many of you still enjoy brush painting and will use any excuse to get the paintbrush out rather than the airbrush? I mean, we all detail paint, you know, even if you're an airbrusher, you are going to detail paint. I mean, I have lots of paintbrushes. You know, there's 30 odd paintbrushes there. So, you know, I like brush painting, but I do enjoy airbrushing as well. You know, it certainly speeds the job up and you get a more professional finish and all of that sort of stuff, but it's not for everyone. And at the end of the day, everyone's hobby is their own, and how they want to go about it is their own. And even, you know, the build quality, you know, it doesn't matter. What matters is your enjoyment of the hobby. Now, I can be a bit of a perfectionist. I think it's my autism probably going, that's not right. It should be like this. And so I can be my worst enemy. And so airbrushing for me was a natural progression. I've been airbrushing since I was 15. I think we've talked about it before, with a spare tyre and a VW Beetle washer bottle, because it was a pressurised bottle that used a pressurised airline system. So it was all geared up for it. And my first Passage airbrush with a great big needle like a javelin. And it was only really fit for painting hulls, but that was great because that's mainly what I was doing. And actually it was my dad's Black & Decker workbench, and I've got it in the attic because I kept borrowing it, and eventually he bought himself a new one because he could never get to it, because I used to do all my airbrushing in the garage. It's still got the red paint on from the first time I ever airbrushed, and I airbrushed in Humbrol 19 gloss red the bottom of KG5's hull, and I didn't care because I didn't have a dark red or an anti-fouling red. I just want to put that bright red down, and I was pleased as punch with the finish with the airbrush in it. I mean, I had a couple of drips in it, but I was just pleased as punch because it looked so much better than when I did it with a hand brush, and I enjoyed the whole process, and it was something new. But I still have that red paint, which is always reminds me when I have to do DIY of that joyous moment, which is inevitably a lot better than the moment I'm in if I'm doing DIY. So yeah, putting that to one side, how many of you still enjoy brush painting? And how many of you still exclusively brush paint and won't touch an airbrush? I mean, I've done an absolute beginner's airbrush course. There's no reason not to get into airbrushing. You know, you can take that skill as far as you want to. As with anything in the modelling skill, you know, it's a combination of experience and want that gets you where you're going to be. So yeah, that's this week's question then, I guess. You know, how many of you still enjoy brush painting? I certainly do. You know, and if I was told, you know, there's no supply there anymore, you can never airbrush again, it wouldn't be the end of the world for me, because I'm quite capable of putting a good finish down with a paintbrush. And in that very first absolute beginners one, that's what I'm going to show you how to do. How to get an airbrush quality finish with a paintbrush. It is absolutely doable. And that should be a lot of fun, actually. So at first I was thinking of it and thinking, oh, it's a big surface area. And then I've gone to, actually, this is going to be a load of fun. Let's show what can be done with a little bit of thought. We might need to add a different paintbrush onto the required tools for the build list. So there you go, that's Table Talk this week. I hope you've all had a fabulous week and that 2026 is staying healthy, prosperous, and most importantly, positive for you all. I'm certainly enjoying this year so far. As far as the hobby goes, all going well. So thank you very much for joining me. Until I next see you, which will be Friday night, won't it, guys? You enjoy your modelling. Bye for now.